All right, we are still going to be working on factoring in section 5.9. But today we are going to be factoring trinomials with an a coefficient not equal to 1. So you'll notice in our warm-ups, it's still where the leading coefficient in front of the squared term, if we wanted to write that in, it would have to be a 1 that would go in front of those. Today it'll be some other number, which if you glance down at those examples, you can see it starts with a number other than 1. Oops. Okay. Then let's move on to our one slide of notes for today. So here is our procedure. It's going to be similar to what we were doing before. There's just a little bit more to it when our leading coefficient is not 1. So remember, when you see the word quadratic, think about the squared term, the x squared term or y squared term, whatever the variable is. We are going to use what is referred to as the bubble method. We're just going to be making little bubbles around our numbers until we figure out which ones are going to work for us. The first thing that we are going to do is list the signs that we are looking for. So before we do anything with the numbers, that's why I've been talking a lot the last couple days about what signs we're going to need. We can figure that out before we even start. Okay, then you will list all factors, or I would say factor pairs, of the first term and all factor pairs of the last term. That's another time when that pink sheet that you picked up yesterday will come in handy. We're going to have to list factor pairs of the first term and the last term. Before it was always just the last term. Okay, and then on number 3, list the sign and the middle term you are trying to find. So as is normal in this class, this makes a little bit more sense once we actually do the method as opposed to just writing out the words. So let's give it a try. All right, our first problem, 2x squared plus 7x minus 9. We've got our signs and what we're looking for. That's what I want to focus on first. So just from the original problem, what signs am I going to need? How do we decide what signs we need? Which term here should we look at first to decide what signs? Ryan? The negative 9. Look at your last term. Our last term is negative or minus, so I know that my signs need to be
Negative.
different. The only way to multiply to a negative is to use one positive and one negative. So if you just want to put plus comma minus, that's fine. I like to write them in the parentheses so that I kind of know what my answer will look like. We know we need one positive and one negative. What are we looking for? So what term are we trying to make in the middle, or what number are we making in the middle? A positive 7. So I would put a plus 7. You need a positive 7. If you didn't put the plus sign, that's fine, as long as you know you're looking for a positive 7. So all of that doesn't really take a whole lot of math ability, except remembering that if you have a negative number in the back, you are multiplying to a negative, you need two different signs. So now we're going to start with the listing of the factor pairs. So the first thing we list factor pairs for is the number in the front. What are my factor pairs for 2? 1 and 2. Are there any other pairs? No. Now usually we would list them out side to side, but on this we're going to list them top and bottom. Okay, and then we have to list our factor pairs for -9. What are our factor pairs for 9 in general? 1 and 9, 3 and 3. 1 and 9, or we could have 3 and 3. But we know that our signs are going to have to be both negative. What did we already say our signs would have to be? I should hear everybody answering this because we've already talked about it. What should our signs be on the factors of -9? Negative and positive. So when we start bubbling, we are going to have to make one of these factors negative and keep one of them positive. The way this bubble method works is that we are going to pick one pair from each side at a time to use together. Now, what's nice about this problem is how many options do I have for 2? 1. There's only one pair here. So that's got to be my first bubble. 1, 2's got to be my first bubble. Now my second bubble, I can choose from how many options? 2 options. I got a pair here and I got a pair here. Which one do you want to use first? 3 and 3. But I know that one of them is going to have to be negative. Do you want me to make the top one negative or the bottom one negative? Top one? So there's my other bubble. Then we are going to connect across. When we connect across, we multiply. So if I take 1 times -3, what do I get? -3. If I take 2 times 3, what do I get? And if I add those up, so add them up, -3 plus 6, what does that give me? Is that what I was looking for? What was I looking for? A 7. So that's not going to work. This method is a lot about guess and check. So then we move over. We know that we still only have one option for the first bubble. Still got to be a 1 and 2. And then we've got to decide, do we just want to switch up where our sign is? Like, do we want to make the bottom 3 a negative? Or do we want to try our other pair completely? Try the other pair. If we try the other pair, do you want 1 or 9 on top? Okay, so we want it to be 1, 9. And which one do you want to make negative? Okay. If I take 1 times -1, what do I get? -1. If I take 2 times 9, what do I get? Times 18. And if I add those up, what am I going to get? 17. Is that what I want? Nope. So that bubble doesn't work either. So that one didn't work. That one didn't work. Yeah. You should get good at figuring out which bubbles you want. Jaquan? Like this? Okay. So let's try Jaquan's bubbles. If we take 1 times 9, what do we get? And if we take 2 times -1, what do we get? -2. And if we add them up, what do we get?
7.
Is that what we want?
Yay.
Yes. So these bubbles are going to help us write our answer. Now there's one other thing that's just a little bit tricky about the bubble method. We know our answer is going to have to be 2 sets of parentheses, just like it had been before. Do you see how I made a line that connects the 1 and the 9? Okay, so when we do these, we're going to have 2 connecting lines. They've got to go from one set of parentheses to the other. Some people like to think about it as making a smiley face. It's not a very pretty smiley face, but there it is. So the 1 and the 9 have to be connected in the smiley face. So what I mean by that is I would put a 1x in the front. We're still going to have a variable in the front. And then I'm going to have a plus 9 in the back of the other set. They're connected. Okay. That one's not terrible. Then filling in the other bubble gets just a little strange. We know that the 2 and the -1 have to be connected here. But the 2 came from the first bubble, so it has to go in the front of a set of parentheses. So the 2x goes in the front of the other set, and the -1 goes in the back. Now we can kind of double check ourselves real quick, because if we were to take 1x times 2x, we would get 2x squared. If we take -1 times 9 in the very back, we get a -9. You could still check your answer on this fully by double distributing. But that is our answer, and it is correct. Do we have questions about our bubbles before we try this again? On number 2, first thing I want to know is what signs am I going to use? Natalie? And? Okay. We got a negative in the back. That means my signs are going to be different. So I'm going to need 1 plus, 1 minus. If you want to put them in the little parentheses, you can. You don't have to. And what am I looking for in the middle term? A -1. Remember, if there's not a number written in front of it, we consider it to be a -1. Now we have to list out our possible factor pairs for both 5 and -22. So what are my options for 5? 1 and 5. Any other options? No. What about for 22? Natalie? 1 and 22 or 2 and 11. Now, we've only got one option for our first bubble, so it's going to be 1 and 5. And then you have to choose what's going in your second bubble. We've got to make one of them negative. We got to choose which order we want it in. So I'm going to pull a popsicle stick for somebody to tell me what they want in their other bubble, since many of us have been so quiet today. Because they're acting like it's a Monday, not a Friday. Ryan, what do you want in your other bubble? 11 and 2, which one do you want to make negative? Okay. So we connect our little bubbles. 1 times -11 is -11. 5 times 2 is 10. And if I combine them, what do I get? A -1. Is that what I wanted? Yes, I put it over here. I'm looking for a -1. So Ryan got it right. First bubbles. So now we can just write our answer. If you get your bubbles right on the first go around, you can go straight to your answer. I'm going to put it over here. All right. I need somebody to tell me what should go in the front of my first set of parentheses and the back of my second set of parentheses. Natalie. Good. So I am going to put my variable of A with the positive 1 in the front. And I agree a negative 11 should go in the back. Jeriel? It would be plus 2 in the front. And 5A in the other spot. Okay, so the ones from the first bubble have to go in the fronts. The ones from the second bubble have to go in the backs. But they don't necessarily go in the same parentheses as we lined them up here. They kind of flip-flop around. Questions about number 2? We ready to try another one? Alrighty. On the back, we are factoring 3y squared minus y minus 4. We've done a couple of these, so I'm going to start pulling sticks. Jamaro, what should my signs be on this one? A positive and a negative and a positive. We need one of both. So as long as you know you need one of both, write that down. Doesn't matter to me which order you put them in. Tariana, what am I looking for from that middle term? A negative 1 again, because it's just a minus y in the middle. Not here. Jeriel, what are my factor pair options for 3?
1 and 3.
Anything else?
No.
No, just a 1 and 3.
1 and 4 and 2 and 2.
Oh, you're just overachieving now. 1 and 4, 2 and 2 for my 4 in the back. But I know that one of those from the back would be positive and one would be negative. So we start with our bubbles. 1 and 3 has to be our first bubble. Then we get to choose for the other one. Nevaeh, which factor pair do you want to use for your second bubble? 1 and 4. Do you want the 1 on top, 4 on bottom?
Yeah.
And which one of those do you want to be negative, the 1 or the 4?
The 1.
Okay. And then we connect them. So we've got 1 times negative 1. What do we get? Negative 1. And 3 times 4 is 12. When we add those, what do we get? $11. Is that what we wanted? No. So I'm going to move on. That one didn't work. We're going to try something else. 1 and 3 still has to be my first bubble. May, what do you want in my second bubble? Negative 4 and 1 like this. Alrighty. We make our lines so that we can multiply them together. 1 times negative 4 is negative 4. 3 times 1. And when I add them up, negative 1. Is that what I wanted? Yes. So this is my winning combination. This is what will help me write my answer. So I can set up my parentheses. If you like the smiley face, you can set that up. Connie, what should I put in the front of my first set of parentheses and the back of my second set? Negative 4 goes where? The front here or the back over here? The back. The negative 4 came from the second bubble, so it's got to go in the back. And so what should I line up with it in the front of the other one? 1, because that's what it was connected to. So this line here is connecting the 1 and the negative 4 this line from my smiley face connects the 1 and the -4. But I don't just want a 1 in the front. What's my variable? A y. Okay, so then we finish the smiley face with the little nose on the inside. Kion, what should go in my remaining blanks here?
+1.
+1 in the front and 3y in the back. So again, this line that connected the 1 and the 3 at the bottom is still connecting the 1 and the 3. Questions, concerns? Ready to try some more? At least Jay Sean's ready. I don't know about the rest of you. All right, let's do at least one more together before you try a few on your own. On number 4, first thing I need to figure out is what my signs are going to be. Deja, what are they? Good, we've still got a minus in the back, so that means we need 2 different signs, plus and minus. Keon, what am I looking for in the middle? A +3. So then I just need to start making my factor bubbles. Delaney, what are my options for 2? 1 and 2. That's my only option. And then I also need my factors of 9. Danielle, what are my options for 9? 1 and 9, 3 and 3. We only got one option for our front bubble. It's got to be a 1 and 2 in the front bubble. Jamal Dixon, what do you want to use in your back bubble?
1 and 1.
Which one do you want to be negative? Okay. We make our little lines here. 1 times -9 is -9. 2 times 1 is 2. If I add them up, what do I get?
-3.
9. -9 plus 2.
Oh.
-7. Okay. So is that what I wanted?
Nope.
No. So we move on. We make another bubble. We've got 1 and 2 in our front bubble. Not here. Let's see. Natalie, what do you want in my second bubble? -3 on top?
Yes.
+3 on the bottom. All right. 1 times -3 is -3. 2 times 3 is 6. And those add up to give me a +3. Is that what I want? Yes. So that's going to be the bubble pair that I want to use to help me write my answer. So we set up my parentheses. You can also set up your smiley face. Jaquan, can you help me fill in my parentheses? Good. 1 n in the front, -3 in the very back. +3 in the front parentheses, and a 2n in the back parentheses. Questions, concerns? Deja?
What do you get in the numbers? Like the 3.
This 3 and -3?
Yeah.
From my second bubble right here. So this one didn't work out, that's why I crossed it off. But here, the 1 belongs in front of this n, so you can write it if you want to. And it's connected to that -3. So that's why this line here connects my 1n to the -3. And then my other line connects 2 with a +3. So from the front bubble, it's got to go with the n or the variable. So 2n here connected to that +3 on the other one. Takes just a little bit of practice to get used to how these ones get set up. I will say on 5, it's a little bit different from ones we've been doing. What are the signs going to have to be on 5? Both positive. If you have a plus sign in the back, your signs have to be the same. And the middle tells you what those signs will be. So we will be looking for 2 positive signs on number 5. All right, on number 5, we already said our signs are going to be what? Plus, plus. Did anybody figure out what bubbles I need? Deja?
For the first one, 1 and 7, and then 4 and 7.
Good. So we've got 1 and 7 in our first bubble. That's our only option. We had a couple options for 28, but I think 4 and 7 is good. So we multiply these. 1 times 4. 7 times 7. We add them up, we get 53. I should have filled this in. What was I looking for? A positive 53 from the middle there. So that's how I know that I've got my bubbles set up the way I need them to be. So then we use that to fill in our parentheses. This tends to be the trickiest part. So when we fill them in, we know we've got to connect different pieces together. If you want to fill in the fronts of both of them first, that might help some of you. So the front of each set of parentheses has to come from the first bubble. And we always use our variable with them. So a 1a and a 7a. Front bubble, fronts of the parentheses. Then we can kind of fill in the rest of it based on what has to be connected. So what has to be connected to the 1a? A plus 4. And then what has to be connected to my 7a? A positive 7. So if it helps you to fill in the fronts of your parentheses first from that first bubble, and then fill in the rest of it, that's fine. Questions, concerns? All right. On number 6, what are my signs? Both positive. The plus sign back here tells me they've got to be the same. The middle sign says make them both positive. What am I looking for? On 19. Did anybody get their bubbles on 6? Danielle? 1 and 5, 4 and 3. What's 1 times 4?
4.
5 times 3.
15.
If we add them up,
19.
is that what we want?
Yeah.
Yes. So we go to fill in our parentheses for our answer. What's going to go in the front?
28.
1n, and the other front? 5n. What has to match up with the 1n?
Which one?
A plus or minus 4?
Plus.
Plus 4, and what's going to be on the inside with the 5n? A plus 3. Questions, concerns? Ready for our last one? We got one more, since 7 and 8 were the same. What are my signs on number 7? Negative, negative. This can be one of the trickier situations. If we have a plus sign in the back, our signs have to be the same. The middle says make them both minus. What am I looking for? negative 18. Anybody find their bubbles on 7? Jay Sean? 1 and 5. Negative 3 and 3. Okay. But our signs both have to be negative, so I'm going to make both of these. Oh, you said them both negative. Sorry. My misunderstanding. 1 times negative 3. 5 times negative 3. Add them together. Did Jay Sean get his bubbles right? He sure did. So now we just have to write our answer. What's going to go in the front of my parentheses? 1x and the other front? 5x. What's going to go in the back of the second one to line up with the 1x? A minus 3. And the back of the other one is also minus 3. They were the same. Questions about our bubbles?